Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowigowen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. Except for during the month of April, when we're talking about the after the first date movies and movies that we love. Because we met in April and we thought that any excuse for a theme month is a good excuse.
Might as well.
This will work.
You know, yeah.
And this time I was made to watch Hamilton.
Yes. And I'm not going to sing, don't worry, but it's the $10 Founding Father. It's the rap opera about the most hip hop of Founding Fathers. You didn't think he was hip hop, did you? Well, Lin-Manuel Miranda did. And we've got a musical about it. Yay.
There you go. Also, it's got a guy in it who mainly just goes, bruh. And I love, that was my favorite part, honestly, of this whole thing. There's just the one guy that just goes, bruh,
bruh, bruh, bruh, bruh, bruh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then in the second half, he's a completely different, doesn't say bruh at all. So, yeah. Anyway.
Is he the same character in the first half and second half?
No.
Right. I didn't think, but it's the same actor, right?
Right. Yeah.
I got that part.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I was like, wait, am I racist or is that the same guy? Because that looks like the same guy. Like I was like in my head, I was like, do I ask? Because if I ask, she's going to think I think that all black people look alike.
You're supposed to look at the playbill and like get up to speed on these things. But okay, so yeah, back up. It's when did it come? The 2016 Broadway hit. We watched the Disney Plus version.
The performance we watched was the 2016
from 2016.
Cast.
Yeah. But with the original Broadway cast, starring Lin-Manuel Miranda, I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. Philippa Sue, Renee. I don't remember her last name.
The people that are in Hamilton.
Christopher Jackson, Leslie Odom Jr., Anthony Ramos,
fake
David Diggs, and the guy named Oak. I can't say his name. His initials are OO, and they called him Oak because it's a very long name that I can't pronounce. And I'm sorry,
Which one of those is fake Agent Smith from the new Matrix movie?
Fake Agent Smith. What do you mean?
The guy who plays the King plays fake Agent Smith.
Oh, Jonathan Groff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the guy who plays the King plays an analog for Viggo Mortensen.
Oh my God. We are tripping over everything today. Sorry guys, we'll get it together. What is it? Bad dress rehearsal, good performance? Well, this is the performance. Sorry. Yeah. Well, and point of fact, that is the only really main character in the show who is white, because this is on purpose. All the main characters are actors of color.
Yeah.
Which is meant to be sort of a inside out version of history. And I have heard some interesting takes on that, which we can talk about later. But okay, first of all, what did you know about this going into it?
Singing it's a Hamilton thing.
Yeah.
I had heard that the King was the best part. Besides the Brit guy, the King is the best part. And yeah, I just knew there were going to be a lot of songs that were like with that like staccato like delivery.
That's called rap.
No.
Okay.
It's the Lin-Manuel thing. It's like you listen to other songs that he's written, like his like he has that same with that, but it's just got it's a cadence that he comes back to really often.
Okay.
I could tell you, like, I'll play a bit right here.
Can I be real a second? For just a millisecond. Let down my guard and tell the people how I feel a second. Now I'm the model of a modern major general, the venerated Virginian veteran. I am not the reason no one trusts you. No one knows what you believe. I will not equivocate on my opinion. I have always worn it on my sleeve, even if I said what you think I said.
How does the bastard, orphan, immigrant, decorated war vet unite the colonies through more debt? Fight the other founding fathers till he has to forfeit.
Well, okay, that actually gets into something that I heard recently. So, like all good things, there was this great swell of public affection for Lin-Manuel Miranda, and then, of course, there was a backlash.
Sure.
And I have heard people say, for example, that he is like a one-trick pony. I guess listening to, because there's this, and then he wrote In the Heights, and he did the music for Encanto, and people are looking at like, big opening number, then slower, then, like the pacing of the whole show. And they're like, it's the same. And I can see that, but then you sort of feel like, isn't every musical that way? Big
isn't
opening
that like
number,
Andrew Lloyd Webber,
big end of the first act, big, So he is. I'm seeing a lot of similarities between him and, you will laugh, Michael Flatley. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
He is the guy.
You mean our Lord and Savior?
No. No, he's kind of gross. Michael Flatley is, but extremely talented. He's one of the choreographers for Riverdance, and also
you missed my joke.
Right, Lord of the Dance.
Lord,
sure, yeah, okay.
Dance,
well, because it wasn't that funny.
There are people right now who had to pause this because my joke was so funny. So just all right.
Okay, if you say so. Anyway, Michael Flatley is insanely talented as a dancer and a choreographer, and he does Riverdance, and everyone blah blah blah. Great, his big ego, and he does Lord of the Dance, which is not nearly as good, and it's cheesy, and et cetera, et cetera. And Riverdance is similar to this in that it's a spin on actual Irish dance. This is a spin. Hamilton is a spin on history. And so people who are super into the accurate version are going to be annoyed by the spin on it. And then they take it out on the creator. And so there's this backlash against the creator.
Yeah, if you went to a musical for accuracy, it didn't matter what the subject is. Like, hey, guess what? Cats don't live in the sewers, and they're not very jellical. All right, just like nothing that happens. Like if you went to a musical for historical accuracy,
and they do or do not have buttholes. I can't remember what the thing about cats is. They edited them in or edited them out. I don't remember.
I haven't watched it, but if they edited in buttholes, I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm watching Cats.
I feel like they didn't have them on the costumes, and then later they were like, oh, this is weird. We need to edit them in. I don't remember.
One of the top 3 features of Cats are their buttholes. So
certainly we see the buttholes of both of our cats very frequently.
As cat owners.
Anyway, okay, wow, we really got off target.
Why not?
There's a bit of a backlash against Lin-Manuel. And I got to say, he seems like he would be very exhausting to know because he's so enthusiastic about everything.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you're saying he's like one trick as the structure of his stuff. Because again, this felt like the same structure of any to me, but I thought he was one trick based on everything I've heard of his that's been written, where it was mostly he's the one who's singing or someone is singing something that clearly sounds like it was written by him. But just watching this actual whole thing was like, okay, he's got some range. Like not every time a woman sings are they doing that same staccato quick rap. Like people actually sing in this. There are entire numbers that are people actually really singing. So like, because I just thought this whole thing was just going to be that sort of fast talking, sort of style of thing that I would consider his one trick from it as an outsider who's only seen bits and pieces of his stuff. So I feel like just after watching this, I can appreciate that he has way more range than I thought he had.
Well, as most of the time when there's a backlash against somebody, they're not as bad as people say. Maybe they're not as good as the stands think they are, but they're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate about this. I mean, I was trying to get my mom to watch this when it first came out on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I was describing it to her and I said it's a rap opera, and she was like, huh. Like, that was not the way to sell it to her. I should have talked about how there were more than rap numbers. There's and a lot of the different numbers, they have this feel of something else. Like one of them sort of in the room where it happens feels a little bit vaudeville kind of. The Thomas
Jefferson stuff feels very vaudeville.
Yeah.
Like
well, and I've
his
heard
intro song especially.
I've heard that one compared to the group Morris Day and the Time, which I don't know.
Oh, Morris Day and the Time's great.
But am
I going to have to show you some Kevin Smith movies to increase your appreciation for Morris Day and the Time?
Couldn't you just play me Morris Day and the Time music? I don't want to watch Kevin Smith movies. No. Anyway.
They're one and the same.
Anyway, it's more than just rap, but it does start with rap, and this is my understanding of how this developed. Lin-Manuel was on vacation. I think it might have been actually on his honeymoon, and he's reading a biography of Hamilton, like an academic one, the kind that's like, 4 inches thick.
Yeah.
He's reading that for fun. And he kind of looks at Hamilton's life, and, he's impoverished and basically orphaned on an island in the Caribbean, and by his smarts gets himself to New York and woos himself into a marriage to someone rich, and he's in the army, and he's in the government, and blah blah blah, and and he just get his smarts get him places.
Yeah.
And I believe the quote that I read was, "That's the most hip hop shit ever," which, again, like, do you see the enthusiasm that he has? And I'm okay, that would be tiring after a while. But anyway, so he kind of noodles around with this and comes up with the opening song first. That's, Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to sing. I'm not really. Performs that at the White House. And I've seen the film of that. He is standing up and introducing the thing, and he says, "And I'm working on a musical about Alexander Hamilton." And people laugh because they're like,
right.
"No, seriously, what are you doing?" It's like, no, for real. And I have to say, if you had said to me, 10 years ago, there's going to be a musical about Alexander Hamilton, I would have been like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Is this like, when your 10-year-old is like, "I'm doing a musical about the women's suffrage movement. It's going to be great." And you're like, "Yeah, it's going to be great. Really educational. Sure." Like, But no, I would never have realized that it was going to be this entertaining. I know a lot of Hamilton super fans. Like, they've seen it 4 and 5 times each. And I mean, bought tickets for it at like $100+ a show, at least. Have all the merch, et cetera, et cetera. I have not seen it live, but I've seen the video and listened to the soundtrack probably 100 times. I'm sure you have heard me listening to it and heard me singing along to it
many times.
It was my shower music for a while, because in the shower is where I pretend that I can hit the high notes that I really, really can't. It's lovely to listen to. It's got energizing songs. It's got great wordplay. And it is probably not historically accurate, not 100%.
Sure.
But I think it does introduce some elements that you don't consider when you're in, 10th grade American history.
Yeah.
Or at least that I don't remember from 10th grade American history.
Yeah. I mean, it's a deeper dive. I mean, even if they just took the Cliff's Notes or the whatever notes today of his life, like, it's, it's still going to be more informative than most of the stuff that you would read on Hamilton. He's on a bill. He is something Treasury Secretary. I didn't know anything about his close relationship with Washington and during the Revolution, or assuming that's all accurate, or leading a battalion or whatever. I didn't know anything about that. I just knew, like, oh, he's the Treasury guy. Like, I think good or for better or worse, most of our financial system is in some way based on his ideas.
I knew that Aaron Burr killed him.
Yeah. I knew about the duel stuff.
I think I probably had heard about the Reynolds pamphlet stuff at some point.
I had heard about that.
Or
his son or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't know very much about it. And now I'm like, can we have a version of this about Jefferson and about everybody else? And because this is a much more entertaining way to learn about them. Yeah.
Well, and there's a much more like cynical world where I think he just kept doing this he just kept plucking characters out of this and making a whole musical about that character. I mean, instead he moved on to different things, but like there is a much more sort of profit-driven world where there's a Hamilton verse in the same way that there's a Marvel universe, cinematic universe.
Well, and it's not lost on me that, because the part in one of the songs where it's going Hamilton, Hamilton, you can go Jefferson. Oh yeah. Madison, Washington.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Lauren. Okay, can't do that. Sorry, John Lawrence. You don't get a musical.
Some that just But this is that's the sort of thing that I think someone comes back to later. Like when Jefferson comes out, we'll know like, oh, he's down on his luck. he's gone back to this well again because everybody's just like, no, you're the Hamilton guy. We don't care about your other ideas about musicals. We just want more of that.
Well, I have to say it would be difficult to switch and do a musical with Jefferson as the main character because Jefferson is a bit of a villain in this one. So to switch and all of a sudden he's the hero and Hamilton is the bad guy or an antagonist anyway, that would be tricky.
I think you tell because he's cast as a villain in this, but that's because this is taking Hamilton's side.
Right.
So you'd have a whole different side of it and you'd have all the stuff that isn't in there, working on the Constitution with Madison and all that, all the other stuff that kind of gets glossed over because Hamilton wasn't as big of a part of it. Right. So, there's a way to take a pseudo villain from a movie and spin their side of the story. It would need to be done carefully, but
as with most things, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Nobody was a pure hero or a pure villain. They were just human with failings. I feel like speaking of this, Hamilton is his own villain.
Oh
too.
Yeah, totally.
Like his ambition, his pride, his something. Like just he screwed himself over.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love the outrage of you think that I cheated financially. No, I cheated on my wife. That's so much better.
Right. For him, the worst thing is to think that he had embezzled money from the government.
Yeah.
Illegally. He's like, I didn't do anything illegal. I only cheated on my wife. I only cheated. Many times and paid for the privilege.
Yes. This will exonerate me if I tell everyone about it.
Right.
Like, record scratch. Yeah. Okay, so what's your thoughts? You weren't groaning audibly as you watched this, but thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's fine. It gets better. It gets better in the second half.
It does. I remember I was thinking during the first number, oh gosh, this is not. For as much as we talk about a big opening number, like it's not. You're sort of sitting there going, "What am I in for? I don't really get it." And I'd only seen the opening number before I watched the full thing, and I was like, really? I don't think I'm going to like this very much. Musically, it gets much better after the first number.
I think it gets much better, and structurally, it gets much better. It feels much more like the sort of musical that I like in the second half. I like 1 to 3 characters singing a song about something that's happening, and maybe sometimes one character, like in the Burr song, the In the Room song, Burr singing about what's going on with the rest of the characters behind him. I like that kind of stuff. The stuff in the first half is like Broadway show, less musical. Like I want, 2 characters singing about something that's happening or that is going to happen, and you can throw in all the fancy dance and stuff. But I like it to be a little bit more intimate. Yeah. And just easier to follow. Like when there's 6 or 8 people singing, like it's a great effect when you have like 4 different people all singing their different part of the song all at the same time. And that happens a couple of times during this. It's a great effect, but I'm always just like, what am I supposed to be paying attention to here? It's just all over the place. And the first half, it's just a lot of big, what I would say are closer to like Vegas show numbers versus because I don't expect a Vegas show tune kind of thing to convey aspects of a story to me. Like the first part when they're rattling off all this stuff so fast, and like I'm thinking like, okay, this is like exposition. I'm supposed to be taking all this in, but I can't. It's just moving so fast. And then there are 10 people, and they're all going back and forth. Like I think in the first half, the best number is the one where they're in the bar. And each character's kind of getting his second, and they're kind of together. Like that works. But a lot of the rest of the numbers where the stage is just full of people, that stuff lost me.
It's a lot to keep up with. And I think in those types of numbers, the filmed version makes it harder because it's zoomed in on whoever's singing at the moment. So you're missing all this textural stuff in the background, which often is where some of the humor is, or the playfulness, or just any additional subtlety or connections or anything like that. So I would be curious to see this live and see how it would compare. Although of course this was filmed now 6 years ago, and undoubtedly they've made changes in the staging over the years, and so it wouldn't be the same. Yeah,
I liked watching the theater happening. I did 2 years of theater in high school and was on the technical side of it. And we did a couple of musicals and Godspell and something else. And that it was because I was on that side of it, the technical side of it, not the acting side of it. Watching the theater happen was great. Like,
I thought you might like
the different, like you could tell at a certain point that there was a rotating floor, but you could tell that like there was an outside section that could rotate independent of the middle. And when they're all carrying around glasses and then someone needs to do something and just another person just walks by and just almost invisibly takes it out of their hand.
Yeah.
And that all the glasses aren't full of liquid, but they look like they are. It's just, filled with, resin or epoxy or something, just all of that stuff is great when I see an actual filmed theater performance versus a movie version of that same thing.
Yeah.
Because I just love unlocking all those little bits and pieces. Like even there's the point when everybody throws the pamphlets out.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, oh God, that's a tripping nightmare. Like one of the reasons that you don't have a lot of stuff like that is because everybody's, and then immediately after all of the extra dancers are like just picking them up like robots, like little Roombas, just and making sure that it's all clear to go into the next number. And, being able to see the silhouette of someone as the lights are out go by and, like, okay, they're picking up that chair and that desk, having had to plan some of that stuff. I was on the lighting crew. So it was all very like, I'm going to bring the lights down now and you're going to come out. And, so I had to coordinate with the stage management about all that sort of stuff. Like I'm going to shift the light to this side of the stage and this side's going to be in darkness so that you can bring in the table and chairs for the next setup. And, that sort of stuff. Just that was a fun little pastime during the whole show, just watching that stuff.
Yeah, it is kind of neat. Or, you watch someone, they're passing papers across the stage and it's going to end, this person's moving and this person's moving and they're going to intersect right here. And that's when the paper's handed off and, here's the quill pen and and it's someone's background dancer, but they're also delivering the props at the opportune time.
Or sometimes noticing like when they hand the pamphlet all the way across the upper part of the stage, most of those people didn't actually have a pamphlet. There were like a couple of people along the way that did to like flourish it to make you think they were still passing it. And then the guy at the end already had one and he passed it off, just watching that stuff. Like, cause of course you wouldn't do that. Like that's too much coordination.
Right.
You got 12 people that you're going to hand a piece of paper back and forth. You would not trust every night like clockwork for them to hit that handoff perfectly.
Well,
you're
too
just
much
asking
noise for one thing. Yeah.
You're asking for a problem, just like having real liquids on stage or breakable glasses. I guarantee you those glasses were plastic, though they looked like crystal. Just all that stuff. The one thing that was surprising is that they actually did a real fire on the stage. Yeah. Because that's a whole different can of worms.
I read about that. It was some kind of some sort of paper that was only going to burn for, 10 seconds or whatever. So there were some, they had a mini pyro. I don't know, some person whose job was to figure that out.
Yeah.
So you could have real fire, but it wasn't.
Like there's probably like a corner of that paper that's made out of something flammable and the rest of it is not. Yeah. You light that corner, it's going to burn until it's done. She knows she has X amount of time before she's got to drop it in the bucket and it's going to burn out in the bucket before she puts any more papers in there so they don't also catch fire. And those are probably not actually papers. They're probably made out of vinyl or something. Well, not vinyl, but something that's not going to burn, like all that kind of stuff. Like I love that stuff. There's my uncle's first wife was a theater tech person and I was in theater at the time doing tech stuff and just getting to talk about with her like all this different stuff that she was more of a set builder and stuff like that, but talking about all that stuff, like all that stuff was super fascinating. Like there's some alternate version of me that went into musical theater or theater production and like backstage and stuff because I loved doing the lighting and stuff. And couple times I got to like come up with like lighting setups and stuff. It was very cool. And I love that kind of stuff back in high school.
Oh yeah. Well, it's when we did our episode on, I think it was Dune, we were talking about the costumes for the various alien races that they had. I mean, they indicate different things and you just want to go inside the costume designer's brain because that like, okay, this, and I said, someone looked like nuns. Okay, well, they probably were based on this order of nuns that, like all these little things that to the audience member go completely over your head, but subliminally they all fit in and they make sense. Like the costumes in this or the how do they decide what set elements are they using and what's a real prop versus what's just getting mimed and it's fascinating. I would love to see like
excuse me.
video of a production meeting of this.
Oh yeah, like that. It's so fascinating. Yeah. All that stuff, and I mean, there's a reason there are whole industries built up around it, because it isn't just as easy as let's just bang this out in an afternoon. Like it's a job. Especially
the blocking of this must have been insane, because like you talked about, there's someone stepping across the stage very purposefully to get to meet someone at a certain time to hand them the props so they can do the thing. Blah 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 blah. Angelica's song. So Angelica, okay, if you haven't seen this, if you don't know the characters, I'm sorry, you're lost by this point. But Angelica is Hamilton's sister-in-law. He marries her sister. And in this version, probably not in real life, but they have feelings for each other. She met him first and was instantly taken, but realized that she couldn't marry him for whatever reason.
He's poor.
And she hooked him up with her sister, and her sister loves him too because he's a catch, whatever.
Yeah.
So she makes the toast at their wedding, and then instantly after, there's this song where she sings about her feelings about this relationship.
Yeah.
And the blocking is that everyone rewinds their steps that they've just done from the previous, 5-10 minutes. I can't imagine how you even practice that. I mean, I can't, because I'm not a dancer. I'm not a theater person. I have zero body mechanics knowledge. But I so want to see how they made that work.
Oh yeah, and it's not a 1-to-1 rewind. I think what you realize about so many things in special effects, but also in practical effects like this, is show enough to sell the effect.
Yeah.
So there's enough rewinding. There's one person very prominent in the foreground who's doing like a very robotic sort of backing up and turning, and the rest of the people aren't as quite as exaggerated. But and they play the rewinding sound in the background. Right. Like everything they're doing is like, okay, I get it. You're rewinding. Yeah. I got it. Like they didn't need to, you watch that scene back. They don't one for one do their steps.
Sure,
you get everything you need in this economy of motion and production. And I think that's got to be one of the most exhilarating things about doing this sort of stuff in the theater, is figuring out how to sell something without having to actually do that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that scene is a great example of that, because they do exactly enough to make you think, to make your mind go, oh, they're rewinding, and no more wasted motion than just what they needed to sell that effect. It's great.
But also not so much that enough that if you don't get that, if you're not literal and you're like, oh, they're rewinding, they don't look stupid. No matter what your take on it is, it makes sense.
Yeah, it works.
Speaking of, so this whole conceit through the whole show is that Hamilton and Angelica are in love with each other, and then they're buried next to each other at the end.
Yeah.
Apparently she's not buried next to her own husband, which is weird, but apparently that is not actually how they were reading a lot into this to put that in the show.
It's embellished quite a bit. Sure.
Which gets to something about this and, sort of theatrical versions of history that kind of bug me. For example, there are certain things where just for neater storytelling, you leave it out. For example, after Hamilton and Eliza are married, all the guys are at the bar and someone says something like, well, if he can get married, there's hope for the rest of us. Okay, well, they all were married at that point.
Right. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, but that's okay.
Let's not let reality get in the way of a good joke.
We never meet their wives. They're not okay, fine. But then so earlier, the part where Burr is saying, oh yeah, we're really good with ladies, and Hamilton is basically a man slut, and Martha Washington named her feral tomcat after him, and Hamilton comes over and says, that's true.
Yeah.
It's apparently not true.
Right.
So that's super annoying. Don't go out of your way to say, oh, that's true, when it's actually not.
The joke actually to me is funnier if he sort of out of character says that's not actually true. To me, that would get more of a laugh to me than that line saying that's true.
Yeah. But I have to remind myself, all of this is through a certain lens, and it's all material for a story that is not necessarily the same one that actually history would tell. For example, in this version of the story, Hamilton and Eliza have on some level separated after he's told everybody that he had this affair. And then their son's death brings them back together. Well, in real life, she was pregnant with their, 7th or 8th child at the time their son died. So they were together at least a little bit.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
And then, fun fact, that baby was a boy who they named Philip after the one who had died. So I feel like that's not I know that happened a lot. Like you just use the same name several times, but
kids were gonna, you had a lot of kids because not all of them were gonna survive.
Yeah. So there's only so many names in the world, really.
Yeah. Well, there's only so many names that have any meaning to you. So if just because one has passed on from this world, like
that's why
we name people after people all the time. Why not one brother after another?
That's why there were no silly names in colonial times, because too many people died, so we just got to use the same name over and over again.
I really like the name Brandon, but we already used that for our son that died 2 winters ago, so I guess this one's got to be Brantley. No, just name him Brandon.
Brandon is fine. Yeah.
All the monogram stuff you have still works.
And it's when people started living longer that we got
we got dumb names.
Dumb names. And I'm not going to insult any names, but whatever name you think is dumb, that's because
a lot of people have dumb names
because of childhood vitamins.
Yeah. But I think actually that's a good point that you bring up, because I think the real question to ponder about this, the historical accuracy of this, is there are people for whom this is going to be their only idea of what happened in Hamilton's life.
Yeah.
Like ask anybody. You remember that Brazilian soccer team that went down in the Andes? Tell me about that. And they're just going to recount the movie alive to you beat by beat.
Right.
And then Ethan Hawke ate a guy's butt. And that like Ravenous is a movie about like the Donner Party or whatever. That is probably everything someone thinks about that, so there is this thing of, there should be maybe a certain amount of care that's taken.
Yes.
Unless you're going to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. What's the Sense and Sensibility, but zombies with zombies or whatever.
Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
And zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like whatever. Like, okay, great. Like we know it's not for real. You're saying, what if Abraham Lincoln secretly was hunting vampires?
Yeah. This is kind of on the knife's edge of
right, because it's presented incredibly accurately in terms of like, someone would probably argue this who actually knows about the clothing, but the costuming, they're not like, you could do this and have all these people dressed in sort of modern-ish takes on historical clothing, and that's another wink that like, no, this isn't accurate because nobody had camouflage pantaloons back in the day. Like none of this stuff is quite, but they're going out of their way. Their props are all seem quite accurate. Their clothing, it is this knife's edge, like you said.
Do you think the fact that the actors are all people of color, do you think that's enough of a tell?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because to me, the only time that the color of an actor matters is when, or the race or whatever of an actor matters, is when that is a major part of their character. Mm-hmm. Right. If ethnicity is not a major part of a character's life, who cares? Like, how many different colors of Macbeth have we had? Okay, great. Have we had any, white portrayals of Martin Luther King Jr.? No, because that's not appropriate, because that's a huge part of who he is. But you want to give me a Hispanic Conan the Barbarian? Great, let's do it. Whatever, or Jason Momoa played Conan the Barbarian, not an actual like.
I think he has the muscles then. That's the key thing. Like.
Right. So when you're dealing with fictitious characters, yeah, absolutely play it. But it is when you're dealing with historical characters, there is that question of like, how does this work? And like you said, does this immediately cue you that this is all has a certain amount of tongue in cheek because, Burr is black and Hamilton is Hispanic. Does this, should it cue you? Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
That coupled with the sort of hip hop vibe, and then like sort of contemporary clothing or, less accuracy on all the other stuff, I think would make it a home run. Mm-hmm. But yeah, does the fact that they're singing in a modern style and the cast is mixed race.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it gives you some indication, sure.
Just so everybody knows, they didn't really have a rap battle to determine forms of government. I hope everybody knows.
That is one of the better parts of this movie, that they stylize all these Hamilton Jefferson debates as rap battles.
Yeah.
With the MC as George Washington.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
The wordplay in some of these is amazing. Like,
it really is like a diss rap battle. Yeah. And they do some good wordplay
throughout the whole show, really. But that's honestly my favorite. It's just the rhymes and there's hardly anything that's a stretch to get it to rhyme.
Yeah, the writing is clever.
Fits
like
the rhyme
I'll give
scheme.
It
fit, like my favorite though is not from the rap battle. It's Washington tells Hamilton that Jefferson has stepped down from the cabinet because he's going to run for president, and Hamilton is like, let me at him. I'm gonna fix him. I'll write under a pseudonym. You'll see what I can do to him. Like,
yeah.
That's how do you even think of that?
Well, and then there are something like that is just like, how did nobody ever, like, it was right there. It was so good and it was right there.
Right. It worked so well that Party was like, well, that's obvious. How did no?
And I've heard stories of singers, songwriters and rappers and different things, like coming up with a rhyme scheme and then thinking like, there's no way no one's ever rhymed that before. Mm-hmm. Like that's got to be, and they're like, trying to find like who has done this before. Like there's a story about Dave Grohl writing Everlong, and he hit on a chord that he thought sounded like Sonic Youth, and he sent it to Sonic Youth and said like, this isn't a song you guys wrote before, right? I'm not ripping you off.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried to listen through your catalog, but like, I'm okay to release this, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, no, it's a great song. You should release it. There's that kind of thing where like, yeah, I wonder if he was ever like, this is so good, I need to make sure that like Eminem didn't write this rhyme before or something, or whoever, Snoop Dogg, whoever.
Yeah. There's no mom's spaghetti in here. Yeah. You're fine. Back to though, some people are going to see this and think that this is literally exactly what happened. That kind of concerns me so our 11-year-old watches a lot of stuff on YouTube and is very into history right now and learns a lot about various historical events from various YouTube people. And I worry that he's going to get an inaccurate notion of some things or filtered or and so I always am I feel like he thinks that I'm raining on his parade, I'm sure, when I'm like, well, that's true, but don't forget that also blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Like, keep in mind, person on YouTube is only a person and their job is not to be fully accurate. Their job is to entertain you. So they may be leaving some stuff out. Like, I really don't want him. What I'm really afraid of is that someday he's going to come and go, Mom, I found this person on YouTube that says that Hitler had some great ideas, which I don't think is likely because he won't even say his name. He refers to him as Skinny Mustache Man. Yeah. So that particular thing is unlikely. But I worry about, like I wrote down, history through memes. Like, most concepts in history and like the truly important lessons that we all need to learn cannot be distilled into a meme or a GIF or even a 2.5 hour show. Like, it's way more complicated than that and not nearly as entertaining. So that, as a broad theme, that concerns me a little bit.
Can I just, an aside, thank you for pronouncing GIF correctly.
I never remember which way I'm supposed to do it. I know there's a controversy.
Yes.
But I can't remember which side I'm supposed to land on. So it was 50-50, so I'm glad I got it right that time.
Yeah, you're allowed to say GIF so long as you say JPEG. That's the rules. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So
we don't have time for your type. In
this house we say GIF.
Okay. In this house we say GIF. What did I say?
In this house we say GIF.
See,
sorry.
you don't even. Sorry, you get confused.
That was not me getting confused. That was just me misspeaking. In this house we say GIF.
Okay. Like the peanut butter.
Animated GIF.
Like the peanut butter. Okay.
Butter.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do you? So I am not a knowledgeable person about hip hop, but what do you think of this original assertion that started the whole thing that Hamilton has a hip hop life?
I mean, in the sense of, is that a Drake song? Started out with nothing, now I'm here. Like, yeah,
I don't know.
Like he's rags to riches. Sure. Yeah. Like, is he a little bit, pardon me, gangsta in his like portrayal of himself? Like, he has extreme self-confidence, which I think is a trait of most successful hip hop artists. He is not willing to shy away. He speaks his mind. In his actual life, he was an extremely prolific and eloquent writer. So, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made. Like, is he missing a lot of aspects of the hip hop thing? Sure. Is he hitting on enough? I don't know. Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like if you want to say that, sure. Like in the same way that like Johnny Cash was hip hop, like that he was a guy who, and actually I know a lot of people who like hip hop and like Johnny Cash because of his attitude. He had that attitude that he personified a certain, way of life and like bravado and things that goes with hip hop. So, and also if some of this stuff is true that he's, a player and all this stuff, like, sure. Yeah. Like that starts to factor into it too. But yeah, I don't know. Like,
I ain't saying he's a gold digger, but something. I don't even know the rest of that song,
he did marry into a rich family, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you want to say? Like, who's the arbiter of that?
I don't know.
Not me.
I don't know
for sure. But
not me either.
I buy it. Like, I buy looking at his life and going like, yeah, he kind of had the same kind of rise from nothing to top of the world at one point. So yeah, like on some level, sure.
Well, and he has the advantage of dying young, so it's him and Tupac, like
right, and Biggie, and
yes,
well, but also like he's rock and roll too because of that.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, like he also kind of lived a hard rock and roll lifestyle. So if you're
I don't know any of the others, Madison, you end up like 50 Cent at the Super Bowl, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, he gained weight."
Yeah. I love how people dog on him about that. But when you watch that video, like right before his segment, he does like a full on pull up to get himself into that upside down position.
I would say he's like singing while upside down.
He got himself up there. It's not like now. If there was like a clip of someone with a forklift having to hoist him up there, I'd be like, sure.
I think part of it was that he has been very critical of women's bodies.
Oh, sure.
So turnabout is fair play.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
he got a little puffy. That's what happens when you're muscular and you're not working out as hard and you're still eating your high calorie.
Anyway,
they get a little puffy.
That didn't happen to Tupac. That didn't happen to Hamilton. Go out and blaze glory.
Go out before you get puffy.
Right.
That's what
nothing against
or puffy gets
Sean Puffy Combs, just puffy. Anyway, so you said your favorite was the King.
I think like a de facto. I mean, my favorite was the guy.
Yeah,
but
Hercules Mulligan.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I liked the characters that you're supposed to like, the ones that are like flamboyant, over the top, Jefferson and the King. I mean, it's a great portrayal, and he's giving it 100%.
Yes.
Some of that 100% is flying out of his mouth.
You noticed that.
I love it.
Yes.
Because it just tells you that he's going all in.
Singing so hard, some spit flies out of his mouth. It just hangs there on his lip, and he's just
And I love when anybody like sings in an English accent, because like you have to put in some work to sing in an accent.
Yeah.
Because even people with an accent don't generally sing in an accent.
Right.
The proclaimers notwithstanding.
Do you have a favorite song of all these? Now you've only heard these once, plus my shower renditions. So,
probably the Jefferson introduction song was pretty good.
One.
It's a good performance too. It's the first time that you've seen a character besides the King that's that most like flamboyantly over the top.
Mm-hmm.
So it's early in the second act.
Mm-hmm.
So it just like brightens things up in a way that is just like, okay, good. And it was part of the thing that propelled the second act in my eyes to being so much better than the first act. Just the presence of that character was enough. Cause like before that, the most kind of flamboyant guy was Lafayette, which was pretty good.
Well, shockingly, same actor,
right?
Yeah.
Which I did figure out after a while. I was like, did they just cast two guys that look that much alike, or is this the same guy?
Yes. I am curious now what the show looks like with different actors in these roles, because I've listened to the soundtrack umpteen dozen times and seen this, and I'm having a hard time imagining anybody who's not Daveed Diggs doing that rapping and all that other,
Yeah, well, and the problem becomes the second run of cast members are usually not giving you their take on the character. They're just doing their impression of the first person to perfect the role.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I would say that's probably not the best way to do it, but they also know that the audience is expecting
exactly right. Version, and if you go to Hamilton and you're on the 5th cast, and the guy playing Jefferson doesn't do all that over the top stuff, and he has a completely different take on Jefferson, you're just going to be like,
people are going to be disappointed. Yeah, that's true. Because everyone's coming in with preconceived notions.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's just, they're performing the show that was created and blocked and choreographed and all that stuff. Like, it's different from, Southwest Middle School is going to do a production of Hamilton. That could be different, but if you are touring the Broadway show, everybody's going to expect you to do exactly what the first guy did.
Well, I will say, though, so I mentioned Riverdance and Michael Flatley, and I've seen that live twice, plus watched umpteen video versions. Mm-hmm. There were subtle changes through the years of that show, and they changed dancers. But also, like, I would notice the costumes were different. They'd introduce new numbers, this, that, so like things change throughout the life of a show. Yeah,
but you can't tell me that if the guy who was replacing Flatley as the lead came out with a button-up shirt on and not shirtless, you wouldn't be disappointed. Like,
he's not shirtless.
He's got to be shirtless. He's got to be shirtless for this whole thing.
We don't really talk about Lord of the Dance. Lord of the Dance is...
As far as I know, that guy is always shirtless.
I think he likes to be shirtless.
He was born shirtless.
I think he likes himself an awful lot. He's one of those people where I'm like, I don't need to like him because he likes himself. Talk about exhausting to know. I think he must be super exhausting.
I'm sure.
If you have met Michael Flatley in person, please let us know what he is like, because I am willing to be wrong. If he's, retiring and shy and rather introverted and sort of hates the attention, I will eat my hat. But
eat your hat.
Let me know. That's a phrase you haven't heard in a while, right? Yeah.
Jeez.
So, okay. Well, we've been sort of all over the place, but I don't think that we could do it. My feelings about this are all over the place. There's a lot of topics. So
this movie this performance, this show it's long. It's like a Marvel movie. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's long. It's got a lot going on. It's there's just. But it's hard to sum up and talk about any individual part.
If you, like me, are like, I don't know, I saw the opening number and I was really not. No, give it a chance. Or if you're like my mom and your kids have been like, Mom, it's a rap opera. It's great. It's more than just rap. It's fine.
Come on, Mom.
If you are a Jefferson stan, which my mom is a little bit and you don't want your hero to be sullied, well, I can't do anything for you there. But he's entertaining as a character, so I'll give you that. So Madison doesn't get a very good edit. I did appreciate his constant, sneezing and sickness and everything. Apparently he was just a sickly person.
Yeah. Well, and he's like, he doesn't get it too bad, but also, he's very reserved.
Yeah.
I like the portrayal there.
I think in real life, he was actually pretty short. He was like 5'4". And the actor who's playing him in this is like 6'6".
Yeah.
So that part not accurate at all. But what can you do?
You got to flub sometimes.
Well, hey, folks, we would love to know your take on Hamilton. Have you seen it? Have you seen it live? Is it different than the Disney Plus version? Are we fooling ourselves that we've seen it? If by watching the film version, should we shell out $200 to go see it in person? Unlikely, but you never know.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you. You can tweet at us, you can send us an email, or you can contact us on Facebook. Our handle is the same for all three. It's YSMY Podcast. YSMY for you show me yours. You can tweet at us on Twitter, send us email at gmail.com, or find us on Facebook. Facebook is also where we post links to latest episodes. We have them every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode up on either the Facebook page or Twitter on our Twitter feed. Or if you go to your major podcast providers and subscribe or follow or whatever the parlance is, you can get our latest episodes right in your queue. Mm-hmm. We would also love it if you would like and review the podcast. Let other people know what you like about us. I know there's something you like about
whatever
us.
You can stars or reviews or likes or whatever you can give us. We
Gotta
crave
be
them.
something. Even if only all you say is sometimes they can control their cat, because I don't think the cat featured in this episode.
No,
She's been in the last couple, but no,
But
no interruptions
We're
today.
40 something episodes into this, and we're not planning to stop anytime soon. So
Is that a threat?
yes, it is. So if you don't subscribe, we'll come and subscribe you. So yeah, I mean, like this is the point where I feel like, you know, we are going to start looking to actually do something to make this podcast known out there. Because right now we've just posted episodes and hope that people find us. But, you know,
Many
we're getting
of you
ready.
have, which is great.
Yeah. And it's great. And we appreciate all of you. But yeah, as we ramp up into sort of hitting into the 50s and 60s of episodes, I guess probably episode 50 is probably a big milestone. You know, we're going to start, you know, advertising this thing and trying to get it out there. And, you know, so you can say you were here first.
Yes.
But I mean, you were already here. So tell your friend that they can say they were here before the world knew about us.
But, you know, if there's stuff where you think, I definitely want you to keep doing this, don't change that, let us know. Or if I definitely want you to change that, let us know that too. We may or may not.
Also, we know that no one is listening at this point. You were like, okay, you're done with the Hamilton stuff. Let's go. We're done.
Oh,
So,
at this point,
yeah,
well,
definitely not. So
anyway, so yeah, rate, review, subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I said every other week, during April, we've been having new episodes every week, but this is our last April episode.
That's over.
So
It's done.
I can't even look at the calendar. Is it 2 weeks from next week? But regardless, the next episode is not on the every week schedule. What is the next episode, Dave?
wow.
That was word vomit. Sorry.
You did it. You got to that.
I did.
So we've been showing our kid the Lord of the Rings
I know
trilogy.
what's coming. Okay.
I don't think you know what's coming.
I don't. All right.
I don't think there's any way you know what's coming.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you do. You'll surprise me. When I say what it is, you tell me if you knew this was what was coming. We've been showing our kid the Lord of the Rings saga, and it made me think about another great pseudo medieval fantasy movie that I think is extremely underappreciated from the 80s that is absolutely wonderful, and it is so my jam, and it was one of the wood grain VHS cassette tape movies that was there that I could watch anytime since we didn't have cable. Do you have a guess as to what it is?
Well, I thought you were going to say the animated Hobbit. But
I knew that's what you thought.
yeah, but it's not.
It is not. No, it is Krull.
I don't even know what that is.
Krull.
So okay, you sure it's not krill?
Nope, it's Krull.
Crullers?
Nope.
Like the donuts?
And it's great.
Okay.
There's a cyclops in it.
Okay.
And a weapon with many blades and a mountain that moves, and the bad guys, when you shoot them, a squid comes out of their head. It's great.
Okay.
And you're going to love it.
Okay.
It's wonderful. It's Krull.
Okay. Are we involving our child in this?
No, we're not.
No.
I think it would be probably fine for him, but yeah, it probably not. It's on the razor's edge. It's probably PG-13, you know.
Okay. Okay.
So Krull.
All right.
That's what we're watching. Krull.
We'll tune in next week for Crullers?
Krull.
Krill. Whatever he said. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll see you next time with Crullers.
Stop doing that.
I take my phone where I can.
All right.
Anyway, we'll see you next time. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io. Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowagowan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple looks at the... Sorry, give it to me. Give it to
Fucking kidding me.
I've confused myself. Give it to me again.
Talks about.
Talks about. Got it.
It's only episode 110.
It's like 41. 40,
Same.
43.